This video will go over how to define porous regions to represent graded decks for your influx project. Why would you need a porous region? Because many facilities make use of graded decks around process equipment. However, on occasion CAD models have these decks represented as solid plates. To resolve this issue in influx, a porous region may be defined over these decks to allow a percentage of flow to pass through them. Here's an example of a rectangular deck that was modeled as plated when in fact it should be graded. We need to then define a porous region to encompass the deck so that wind and dispersed gas can travel through it. From the Add Items tab, choose the Porous Region option and set the type to Grated Deck. This tells Influx to use an area-based porosity for the region. Use the two pick tools to define a thin cuboid volume over the deck. It is helpful to do this from a top view to obtain the X and Y coordinates for the opposing corners. Then, zooming into either corner and manually editing the Z-coordinate value. Click the Preview checkbox and increase the value slowly until you can see the red preview of the region appear above the deck. A shortcut to use here is to place the cursor in the text box and while holding Control, press up or down on the keyboard to increment the value by 0.1. Now rotate the model to see the underside of the deck and perform the same function to lower the other corner until you can see the red preview of the region appear below the deck. After the bounds of the porous region is set, enter the area porosity value. For this example, in most graded decks, the Z value is entered as 0.9, meaning that 90% of the flow is allowed to travel through the region, but only in the Z direction. Click the Add Item button to add the porous region. This process should then be repeated for all the other graded decks in the project. In some cases, multiple porous regions may need to be defined for one deck. This would be the case if the deck is not cuboid in shape or has large pipework or equipment passing through it. If the porous region is defined through equipment, then this would allow air or gas to flow into the equipment item, which should be avoided. Once added to the project, any new ventilation or dispersion simulations will use the porous region rather than the original CAD items it covers. You may also select individual or a subset of defined porous regions from the Advanced Options dropdown. For each case in the project, you can view which porous regions are used by looking at its Properties panel. If any cases were run before the porous region was defined, they will need to be reset and rerun. If you have any questions about porous regions or how to define them, please email us at info@insightnumerics.com.